Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Hey, have you gone to MrProductivity.com yet? M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. Go there. You'll find out a bunch of goodies and everything you want to know about me. But enough about me. I want to introduce my guest on the show today. Donna Dube is a certified director of operations, business growth strategist, and host of the CEO Amplify podcast. She helps establish online service-based business owners maximize their impact and profit, focusing on smart work practices and strategic growth. With years of experience guiding 6- and 7-figure businesses, Donna empowers CEOs to leverage their time, talent, and tactics effectively. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here and you're all smiling. For those of you who are watching this on Spotify, X, Facebook, or YouTube, if just an audio podcast, you don't get to see our smiling faces, but you're still going to get tons of value. So I'm excited to dive into the conversation today because one of the first things I want to start off with, and I know that's kind of a bad conversion or a bad, what's that?
Segue, yeah.
It's okay. It's my show. I do it the way I want to do it.
That's
my show.
right.
So you have a philosophy called doing less better. And I tell you, that's the reason why I want to start out with that is because a lot of people don't understand what productivity is. And I've got a saying, you can be productive being busy, but just because you're busy doesn't mean you're being productive. Because you could, a hamster is really busy running on the wheel, but they're not going anywhere. So let's start off with the power of not necessarily working wall to wall and breathlessly, but actually doing the right things, which may be less.
Yes, 100%. So I think for many listeners, and I too was in the same boat, when we start our business, we think we got to do it all. We don't have anybody helping us and we got to do it all, got to grind and hustle and work, to the bones so that we can grow this thing that we started. But the truth of the matter is a lot of what's happening day to day in our business isn't bringing us a return on investment and isn't moving the needle forward. And so as business leader, we want to make sure that the time we're spending working on our business is productive, is moving the needle forward, is revenue generating. And that means sometimes we got to let go of things that are not. And I get it. That's hard. That's really hard sometimes. But the easiest way to do it is to look at the objective data. Okay, I'm spending 5 hours a week doing this thing, social media posts, making Canva images, whatever it is. Are people actually clicking? Are they following through and taking the action I asked them to? Or am I just getting 2 likes from, my business bestie and my mom, right? So if that thing isn't giving you that return on investment, it's not bringing revenue directly to your business, why are we spending time on it?
I have a question I like to ask myself and ask my wife, is this making us money?
Yeah.
So it took me 2 years to hire a lawn guy. I'm not a lawn guy, and this guy does a phenomenal job cutting my lawn, edging my lawn, making it look gorgeous. Why am I out there as Mr. Productivity cutting my lawn? So as we grow our business, I'm asking my wife, she says, I'm going to do thus and such. I'm like, is it going to make us money? Is scrolling on Instagram going to make you money? Is endlessly listening to podcasts and audiobooks, is it going to make you money? And I think that's a good question for leaders and solopreneurs to ask themselves, is this going to make me money? So what I do, we're recording this podcast right now. When I'm done, I hand it off to my wife who works with me in the business, and she does everything else because I'm not good at that. I can do it if I need to do it, but she is much more detail oriented, and she takes part of that because I am the brand. So I want people to ask themselves that question, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this question. If we just say, hey, is this going to make me money? Now, I realize you may not be able to have a maid or a personal chef at this point, but as you go forward, ask yourself, is this activity making me money? If the answer is no, maybe I go out and outsource it to somebody. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. And I think sometimes we're nervous as business owners to start to look at outsourcing because we think, oh, how much is it going to cost? Am I ready for it? We're not sure we have the capital and the income for that. But I want you to think about what you're outsourcing is giving you back time, right? So if you outsource for someone 5 hours a week, let's say, remember, we don't have to start with a full-time employee with benefits and all the things. It can be a very small amount to begin with. So if you outsource those 5 hours a week, and then you are intentional with how you spend those 5 hours a week, now that's where you're going to see the gain. If I outsource 5 hours a week and then I micromanage them for 3 hours and, I scroll on Instagram and I waste my time, well, then I haven't benefited, right? The other side of the coin 100%. Is we want to bring someone on who's going to help us produce revenue in the sense that they're taking something off our plate and or they're directly relating to revenue. So are they going to make revenue on month 1? No. But by month 3, by month 6, we should start seeing more revenue coming in, having them in our business.
I'm so thankful that you said the word needle moving because a lot of people come to me and they say, Mark, teach me to plan. And I'm like, stop, time out. That's the end. That's the last step. We have to start with 2 other things. What is your why? Because I believe your why feeds your goals. The goals are the thing that move you toward that dream, that aspiration you are achieving, you're trying to achieve. But the issue is if you start with the planning, well, what activities do you need to put which are going to feed your goals, which are going to feed your why? So I want people to think about it differently. Why, then goals, then planning. Because if you have a goal, you're going to have to say to yourself, what do I need to do to achieve my goals? That's what goes on your plan.
Yes.
You just can't plan for the sake of planning,
yes,
correct?
100%. And we see this happening in businesses when we don't do that why, that important step first. What's my mission? What's my vision? Then what ends up happening is we pick a random goal. Okay, I want my revenue to be $250,000, right? We have no idea why. We don't know if that's enough to even support our family and provide the life we want to live. It's just a number that we pulled out of the sky. Maybe somebody else we know has that goal, or it sounds bigger than where we are right now. There's no objective data for that, right? And then you're right. You end up with, okay, that's my goal. But then we don't take it a step further and say, but what activities do I have to do to be able to reach that goal? What products, what programs, what services do I have to sell? At what price point? To how many people? Right? All of that we can have a plan for beforehand, but we need to know the direction we're going and why we're doing this, right? So that our goal is rooted in what we actually want out of this business.
You mentioned tracking your time, also known as time auditing, because most people are keeping their stuff in their head and they're telling themselves stories. Oh, I got a lot of good things done today. And you ask them what, they're like, I made progress. I'm like, well, what progress did you make? But when you write down what you're actually doing and how long you spent doing it, and to use your word, is it needle moving? Well, now it's very convicting because you can go, yeah, I had 10 things on my to-do list. I got 9 of them done. Yeah, but the 9 took you 5 minutes to do and they weren't needle moving. So I think everyone on a regular basis, I do it on a daily basis, do a time audit. And all you have to do, I got one of these paper planners, and I actually write down what I do during the day. Not what I plan, because what you plan and what you do could be 2 entirely different things. And all you got to do is if you put like 2 to 3 o'clock, you're going to network. But you actually scroll on TikTok or Instagram. Well, what I do is now I don't spend time on those social media platforms, but you cross off networking, you write down wasted time on social media. So when you do an audit of yourself, you're like, ugh, I really didn't have a productive day. But if you don't do that, then you start telling yourself stories, which, let's be honest, we're not going to tell ourselves bad stories. We're going to tell ourselves good stories.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you on the audit, and I encourage my clients to do that. There is some objection to it, no doubt. It's not the shiniest and the sexiest thing to do in our business, right? So I understand that. But like you said, Mark, the gold mine that you get out of it when you analyze the data is huge, right? And that self-accountability, that radical honesty with ourselves is really what we need. And so if you don't like the timing every day and writing it down type of thing, you can gamify it a little bit. And so I use something called a CEO score. So I sort of measure myself each day. Where did I spend my time? And I give a dollar amount to those things. It's not the amount that I'm paid. It's not the amount I would pay someone to do it. It's more about, my sweat and my equity, right? And what happens is those things that are growth level tasks, those needle moving forward tasks, get a higher dollar amount than some of the maintenance, the day-to-day tasks, right? So if I'm posting on social media, or I'm doing invoices, or, I'm fixing email sequences on the back end, that's more of a maintenance task. And so I'm going to get a lower dollar amount. And I figure out what my ideal CEO score should be based on my annual revenue goal. So the higher my revenue goal, the higher my CEO score, the more time I need to be spending as business leader in those growth level tasks. And so it just helps to kind of figure out, how am I doing this week? And some weeks, I'm way up there because maybe I went to a conference and I had networking and I did, some extra things, right? And other weeks it's on the lower end, but it gives me a sense month to month, how am I doing to make sure that I'm allowing time for those growth level tasks to land on my calendar and actually do them.
I like the idea of a CEO score, and you can even simplify it. I remember travel guides where you look in the restaurant and it'll have a $1 sign, $2 sign, $3 sign, $4 signs based on how expensive it is. And so you don't have to get in the weeds. You can just assign it how many dollar signs you want. And that way you're going to be able to look at it and go, ooh, there's a lot of single dollar signs on my day. Probably wasn't really productive. Because one of the things I hear as a productivity coach all the time is I don't have enough time. You have the time. What you lack is priorities. And by using your CEO score, you're going to oh, wow, my priorities are really messed up today because, again, all I see is $1 or $2 signs. Where are the $3, $4, and $5 signs activities? They're not there.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure you hear this all the time too, but that myth that, my calendar has to be full from the time I open my laptop till I shut it, right? That's not how we humans work. We're not machines. We do need a break. We have to get up. We have to walk around. We need snacks. We have to clear our mind. And so allowing white space on your calendar is the right thing to do.
I have over the years come up with a system. So I don't work wall to wall. Never worked. I do have office hours. My office hours are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, because I think especially I think you work from home as well. You got to have a quitting time, because when you went to the office and you work for a corporation, you would have a quitting time. So my hours are 9 to 4, but I don't have appointments from 9 to 4. If I have a coaching client, I want buffer time before my next coaching client or before my podcast interview, because I need that downtime. So I work, I have downtime. Work, I have downtime. I had one person on the show a number of years ago, and they were a coach, and they would have clients from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'm like, I would never want to be at the end of the day. And he goes, why? I'm like, there's no way you're as good and as fresh at the end of the day as you are at the beginning of the day. And so I will only take 3 clients on a day. So once the third appointment is booked, my calendar's blocked, because I know myself, I cannot be as good if I'm doing too many clients. And it's going to be different for everyone. Some people will do 10 clients a day. For me, the magic number is 3, because I want the first client to get just as good of me as the second client, as the third client.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up, in the fact that, your calendar is going to look different from mine. And it might even look different in different seasons of our lives, right? Some entrepreneurs are running a household with little kids at the same time. Some entrepreneurs have parents who have health concerns and they're trying to deal with that, or their own health concerns for that matter, right? And so, give yourself some grace and know the season of life you're in and what you can and can't handle in terms of your capacity. So yeah, similar to you, Mark, I like to set up, I call it my scheduling ninja, but it's my ideal calendar, right? And I want this ninja working for me, not against me. And so, yeah, where is my personal time that I need to build in to my days and my weeks? I like a morning time, so that's in there. If you pick up kids from school, put that in there. If you want a date night and you want extra time to get ready, put that in there. Whatever that looks like for your week, block off that personal time. And then during the hours when you're, air quotes, open, that's when you have to decide, okay, what blocks do I have? So as Mark's example, I have 3 coaching clients and I have space in between, right? Or every Tuesday I work on, my attract marketing strategy, whatever that is. I have an hour there to work on that, right? So just having those set times. And again, it can ebb and flow. It doesn't have to feel like you're being put in a box and you can't move, because I know for a lot of people, the more creative they want, it to be more loose, right? But when we get it too loose and there's no guidelines, that's when we can, run into trouble. At the end of the day, we say, oh, but I didn't get to my priorities, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about tools. One of the tools I use all the time is Calendly. And Calendly has evolved over the years where most of my calendar is only available from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Podcast interviews, pre-interview calls. The morning time is my prime time. So I have what's known, I got this phrase from Alex Ramosi called maker time. Now, the only exception I make is for coaching clients. They can book between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Most people, hey, I want to get on a call and get to know each other. I'm doing this outreach on LinkedIn. Well, that's only 1 to 4 because I don't want to stop what I'm doing to get on a get to know you call for 15 or 30 minutes in the morning. But I do make an exception for coaching calls. Do you do something like that?
100%. So I have something in the morning, which is an hour every day in the morning, first thing before I open emails, before I do anything. And I call it my growth hour. So that's my 1 hour to work on what I need to do that's a priority in my business, but doesn't have necessarily a deadline of tomorrow, right? So it's not something that, has to be done right now, but it's something that's going to move the needle forward and I need time to work on it. So I have that 1 hour. So if I'm working 5 days that week, that gives me 5 hours in the week, focused strictly on that growth hour. No other tabs are open. It's just strictly what I need to do for my business. I know some people like a CEO day or a CEO afternoon, and I tried that, but Mark, honestly, I would get too distracted, and then I'd say, oh, I have to go to a cafe, and then I wasn't, it was not working for me. So I find this 1 hour growth hour perfect. But again, it's about finding the solution that works for you.
Yes, that is so key because people will look at me and they're like, oh, it's just you and your wife, you're empty nesters, you have 2 dogs. I have 3 kids. I had to get up for school and my mother lives with us. I'm like, I don't want to hear excuses because there's a way that you can make what I'm talking about and what you're talking about, Donna, work for you. You may have to get creative. My favorite is when someone's got little kids. I'm like, my kids get up early. I'm like, what time do they go to bed? Oh, 7 o'clock. What time do you go to bed? 11. I think we found the problem. Why don't you go to bed when they go to bed? What? I'm an adult. Why? Listen, if you either go to bed when they go to bed, or maybe you go work on your side hustle, or that's your quiet time, but you're watching Netflix. I mean, let's be honest with it. Again, it goes back to priorities here. Okay, your kids go to bed at 7. You're going to bed at 11. Are you wasting those 4 hours? I remember a number of years ago, I heard Pat Flynn say when his kids were young, he would, after they went to bed, he would work until, midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I don't want to hear excuses. I don't care how many people you have in your house. I don't care what your circumstances. There is a way you can make this work. It may not be Donna's way or Mark's way, but there's a way you can make it work if you truly want to make it work.
Yes. And I think a lot of that is really mindset, because let's be honest, we come, some of us, from corporate or whatever jobs we're doing, and we think that our entrepreneurship needs to fit in 9 to 5. It certainly can if that's how you want it to. But if your season of life right now doesn't allow that, and working in the evening works better, there's no rules that you can't. Right? But when we have that mindset that we're an employee of our business rather than the owner of our business, then we get stuck there and we think, oh, well, it's after 5. My laptop needs to be closed. I can't work. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Another tool I love to use is AI. And I'll freely admit, when AI first came out, I'm like, Terminator, it's going to wipe us all out. But now, this is going to sound silly to the listener, but I hated coming up with titles for my episodes. Now I just feed the transcript in the AI and it gives me like a title. I'll tell it to take the transcript and make a readable blog post, because I'll put the video and the blog post from transcript on my blog, because no one wants to read the transcript. And so I love AI. It'll give me the podcast description. It'll give me the meta description. And not only that, but I use it for my clients. So let's say I'm whining and dining a prospect. Well, I have a thread. The AI I'm using at the time of this recording is Claude. And I have a thread just for client. It'll say client-Donna. And every time it'll give me, what to say, and I tweak it from my own use. Then I send it to Donna. And if Donna doesn't reply in 3-4 days, I go back to that same thread and I'm saying, okay, Donna still hasn't replied. It knows all the emails and DMs and texts I sent to Donna, and they'll write another one. I love AI.
Yeah.
I think people who are fearing AI probably don't understand the tremendous benefits of AI.
Yes. And I would agree with you. I think too, like you, most of us were hesitant when the thing first came out because we're like, oh no, right? But it does take a little bit of work to learn how I prompt the thing, how I converse with it so I can get what I want out of it, right? So if you haven't touched it yet and it's the first time and you type something, you might get something wild in response, right? Because it takes a little bit of training for us to know how to prompt it properly. But I agree with you. There's so many areas of our business where we can use AI. And I think it's really powerful for people who are solopreneurs and may not feel that they're ready to bring on people, because you can use it in so many different ways to help make things faster, right? If I prompt it and it gives me something, I'm now 75 or 80% there. I take it, I edit it, tweak it, make my language there, and then we're good to go. Rather than sitting at the blank screen going, right, now what am I gonna, right? And we've all been there. We've all done that before. I know one thing that I used it for recently that I found really helpful was when you're trying to think, okay, I want to come up with something new, maybe a lower cost item or offer for my clientele. What would be something, like where are these people in their customer journey? What would be something I could offer them that would give them that quick win? And being able to prompt AI, give it some idea of, okay, these are my target audience. This is what I'm offering. What would be some suggestions? And having it come up with different suggestions based on where they are in their buyer's journey was so helpful, because it's things I hadn't even thought about. And I'm like, oh, I could do that. And I could put it with that, right? And so, yeah, there are so many ways we can use it. And I think, just being mindful and trying things with it, not afraid of it, I guess, is one way. But then also, reading what it's giving you and making sure that that is your voice and that's really your brand and what you want to say.
One of the things I love AI, what happened to my voice? I went to maturity. One of the things I love about AI is I'm approaching 1,300 episodes of the podcast. And so what I do is I'll go back to episode 50 and I'll get the transcript, and I'll put it in AI, and because what I'm doing, I'm using my old episodes as newsletters, a little inside baseball here. And I'll say, rewrite this, remove all the dated stuff if I'm talking about 2017 or something like that. And it'll take the content. I said, don't add anything to it. Don't add anything. It's one thing I like about Claude. It doesn't have access to the internet at this point. And they'll rewrite it. Now, I don't copy and paste it. Well, I sort of do. I copy it. Then I use another app called Hemingway app, because when you write your newsletters, you're supposed to write at a 3rd or 4th grade level, not because people are stupid, but because people are so busy. And when you make it really easy to read, they're more likely to read it and apply what you taught. And so I make sure it always sounds like me. A lot of people, you can tell they're just copying and pasting. Don't copy and paste it. Copy, paste, read, adjust, then use that. But I think if people understand this, then you can, like I've been producing content since 2011. I have so much content for podcasts and newsletters and social media posts or whatever. It's, if you know, the key to AI is, you alluded to it earlier, knowing how to use the prompt. So don't just say, write me a blog post. Say, write me a blog post using, the voice of Tony Robbins, if you will. Don't give me hashtags. Don't give me emojis. Make it about 2,000 characters, including spaces, which is one of my beefs about AI. It can't count. So you'll say 280 or less characters. I'll give you 400 characters. I'm like, so you could do all these amazing things, but AI can't count. But if you learn the science of writing great prompts, the better the prompt, the better of the output AI is going to be able to give you.
Yeah. And I've even used it in personal life. I'm responsible for most meals in my house. And it's like, sometimes you just don't know what you're going to cook next. Look in the fridge and like, okay, I've got this, this, and this. Put AI and put it, and it'll give you some suggestions. And, it just, again, it helps you get the ball rolling and get the process started, right? Rather than sitting in, okay, we'll order out again because I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so I just want people to understand AI is a powerful productivity tool. And if you are a leader of a business and you're not utilizing AI, I remember something I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk. I heard him say it several times. Then you go to YouTube and you search for AI or how to use AI and look at the top 20, 30 videos and just learn. I know it's a crazy concept, but just learn, because once you learn, you're like, oh, wow, I can do this. I can do this. Because when you don't know, you tend to be fearful. But when you understand it, like, oh man, that's going to save me a lot of time because I don't like doing X, but I can have AI get me, like you said, 75, 80% there. And so just go learn it. Don't fear it. Go learn it. And I think that is a pretty good piece of advice across all aspects of life. Most people, I would argue, are fearful because they don't understand whatever the thing is. So go learn about it, especially with YouTube. There's no excuse for you not learning whatever that is you fear.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I'm dating myself now, but I can remember when the banks were going to bring in ATMs.
Yes, I remember that.
Oh, what's going to happen? We won't have any bank tellers. Everybody's going to be out of a job, and right? But guess what? We survived. And now most people are very happy for that. Just pop in quick, go in the bank. I can go there after hours. I don't have to make sure I'm getting to the bank when it's open. And it's a convenience that we all enjoy.
I can't remember the last time I went to my credit union because I do everything on my phone now. And now they have deposit for the very, very few times I get a paper check. I can just take the picture of it, endorse the back. And I don't know how that works. I don't have to know how it works. All I know is I endorse it, photograph the front and back of it, and submit it through my bank's app, and the money's in the account. So, but don't fear. I remember I heard a story a couple years ago where they're closing a mine in Pennsylvania, and they told all the miners, "Hey, we're going to close this mine, but here's what we're going to do. Anybody who wants to, we're going to teach you how to code." And what's amazing, 50% of the people said, "Yeah, great." 50% of people complained that the mine was closing. They gave you an opportunity. They were going to pay for your coding school. But there's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. The growth mindset people said, that's awesome. I'll learn a new skill. I'll get out of the mine. I'll get to work in an office on a computer. And so it's not just the miners. People who are like you and me are afraid of using AI or Calendly or something like that. Instead of having, hey, let me learn this thing. I'm kind of scared about it, but let me learn it. You may actually fall in love with it, and it may change your life.
And I've seen this with other tools as well, in terms of just using the tool as automation. So I know some business owners I work with say, oh, I could use that automation, but I still want that personal touch. I want my clients to feel like it's me and it's not just automated. But I believe that using those automations is just like delegating to a person.
Yes.
Right? And so you're not going to automate everything in your business where you literally sit back, put your feet up, and the money rolls in. That's just,
only.
Right. That's not reality, right? But for example, let's take this podcast. If I had to sit there and go back and forth with Mark on emails, are you available on Tuesday at 3:00? No. How about 6:00? Like, what a waste of our time, right? But using the automations built in, I can pick a time. It gets on my calendar. It gets on Mark's calendar. I get reminder emails. Here's the link, etc. And so neither of us have to have our hands in that process, right? Now, of course, yes, Mark has to be here. He's the brand of his show. He has to show up and do the podcast. But again, like he was saying, afterwards, there's a whole other piece that happens. It doesn't have to be him. So I encourage business owners to actually think about the different systems and processes they have in their business and what pieces are we most responsible for as business owner, and what pieces can we automate, can we delegate, can we outsource, can we let go, right, to make things easier for us.
I teach a concept called the ODE method, which stands for outsource, delegate, automate, and eliminate. And if you've never heard of it, what it is over several days, and there's no magic number of the days, you write down most of what you do. Then you go through the list 4 times. Don't try to go through it the shortcut way. Go through the list once. Everything can be outsourced. You put an O next to it. Go through the list again. Put a D next to everything can be delegated. Do the same for A for automate and E for eliminate. Then you go to Google and say, how do I automate X? How do I outsource X? How do I delegate X? Eliminate, just stop doing it. Okay. What I find is people go, but I really have to do this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I understand you got to do these things, but do they have to be done by you? So for example, let's say you have to do a spreadsheet, but you hate spreadsheets. But Sally down the hall, she dreams of spreadsheets. She would marry a spreadsheet if she could. She'd probably be over the moon to create your spreadsheet. So you still have to do the spreadsheet. So you go to Sally and go, Sally, I have to do this, and this. Got it. There you go. You delegated it to her. So I'm not saying don't do these things. I'm saying if it's not in your wheelhouse and it's not going to make you money, it's not going to move the needle, is there someone else that could do it for you? And that frees you up. It frees your bandwidth up to focus on the things that you do really, really well that move the needle.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think you touched on a very important point there, is that as business leader, it's our responsibility to know what Sally Sue's skills are and where she may want to grow, right? And keeping that in mind, that means we have to have regular check-ins. Does it have to be a corporate one-on-one? No, absolutely not. But you need to have those one-on-ones to say, how are you now? Where are you looking to grow? What other things do I have that's happening in the business that I could get this person involved in? Because that's already their skill set, or they enjoy that, or they want to learn more about it. And so making sure that you're allowing time for that and really know, do I have the right team members and do I have them on the right seats in my bus, to help me move forward? I think so important, because we can often hire someone to do X. And as our business grows and evolves, did we bring them along with us?
A question I wish every manager, supervisor, leader would have asked me is, Mark, what lights you up? Because when you ask someone what lights you up, not like, what do you like to do? What lights you up? You get a little twinkle in their eye. You could have so much untapped potential in your company if you would just ask that question. You're like, Sally, you love spreadsheets? Really?
Yeah.
And you didn't know that because you never asked. And so I implore the leaders tomorrow, or today, whenever you're listening to this show, go to your employees. I don't care if you got 1, 10, 100, 1,000. It may take you a while. Don't delegate this. You as the leader, you go to your team and you ask them, hey, John, hey, Sally, hey, Betty, what lights you up? I promise you, you are, number one, going to get a lot more respect from your subordinates. And number two, you're going to find, wow, why is Sally over in this department when she excels in spreadsheets? And it could change your business. So leaders, please go ask everyone that works for you what lights you up, and then shut up and let them talk. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the leaders will be amazed.
Yes, I totally agree. Totally agree. And then put it on your calendar to do that on a regular cadence, right? Whether that's every 6 months, once a year, whatever, but get it in there as a reminder, because otherwise time's going to pass and you won't do it again.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important you do one-on-one. Don't cheat and do a group session, because people may not be as sharing when they're in a group session, because they're like, yeah, Bobby here, Bobby doesn't like me, and so Sally may be kind of like in a turtle. So one-on-one, whether you don't have to take them out to lunch, that would be nice. Just take them outside, whether it's just the two of you, and ask them that question. I think that has the potential of dramatically changing your business.
Yeah, I agree. And I think on the other side of that, you're now giving them an open space to share. So if that's not part of the culture in your business at the moment, it now will become part of it, right? Which is a good thing, because they may have other things they want to share with you, but they never felt safe or never felt there was a right time and a right place. And so totally agree. The one-on-one and just giving that space and being quiet and listening.
I think a lot of leaders that I know personally have had a tough decision to make when they realize, oh, it's 2024 and I can't manage like the 1990s, because you do have to make that decision. I'm no longer going to manage the way I was managed and my manager was managed. This is a different time. And I'm not talking about the DEI and all this stuff. I'm talking about people. Well, first of all, back in the 90s, we didn't have social media. We didn't have all this, the internet was still relatively new. And so in 2024 and 2025 and on, you have to manage people different. Yes, we're all humans, but we changed. I just learned today, I kept hearing brat, the word brat. I'm like, brat? When I was growing up, that was like, stop being a brat, totally different context now. I had to go Google it, and be honest with you, I don't remember what it means, but I'm like, brat. Everybody's saying, oh, Brittany's brat, and this guy's brat. I'm like, who changed the name? Who changed the definition of the word brat? But where I'm going with that is you have to understand that things change, and you can't you can't be anchored in the way you're leading your company and your employees, because they're going to change. And if you don't change, you're going to be a dinosaur.
Yeah. And you're going to find that they're going to then move on to other opportunities, right? And so then your turnover rate is increased. It's more work and more money for you, because you now have to go through the whole hiring, onboarding, training, etc. And let's face it, that's time consuming and costly. So if we can do a little step at the beginning to, kind of avoid that later down the road, it's worth the time.
Right now, I'm trying to find the article. Okay, so now, as of August 2024, brat is being confident, putting yourself out there, being out, being about, being the center of attention. Now,
okay, totally different.
Totally different than when we grew up, what a brat was. And I'm like, who decided, hey, we're going to take this word, completely change the meaning, and we're going to start saying it? And people like our generation are like, what now? What is happening with our word brat?
That's right. So if I really want to use the old word brat, what word am I supposed to use?
I know, exactly. See, this is why you don't change words like that, because then people like us, we're both Gen Xers, and we're like, wait a minute. No, if I tell a kid, you're being a brat, they're going to say, thank you. I'm like, what? What's happening right now?
Yes. But I think you bring up a good point, because, especially in this online world, many of our teams are remote, right? We're working with people in different time zones, different areas of the country. And so we have to have some trust there. I hired Sally to do, my marketing, right? To implement my marketing strategy. I have to have some trust that I've given her some guidelines on what I want her to do and that she's going to spend the time that I need doing those things. If we can't trust, why do we have that person on our team still?
That's a great question. And I understand. Now, I've been working remote since 2005 when I got fired from my job. So I didn't miss a beat during the COVID thing. But there are leaders, again, this goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. They're old school leaders. They're like, why do we have to work remote? And I want all these people back in the office. I'm like, okay, wait, stop. Maybe some of your employees work more efficiently at home. I mean, I don't think it's a black and white thing. I think you need to just go, okay, you know what, Donna, man, her productivity is soaring at home. Why would you want to bring her back to the office? Because she's demonstrated she's more efficient working from home. But Ted, his productivity tanked working from home. So you bring him back to the office. I think you need to look at every employee differently because everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, 100%. For sure. And you're exactly right. During COVID, we were all forced into a work from home situation. And some people thrived. Some people had a setup for it. They were ready to go. And in others, it's like, well, I got no space. I got 3 kids running around. I got no quiet. It's not working for them. Right. And so I think being able to give your contractors, your employees, whoever you have on your team, that flexibility, whether that's a hybrid model or, it's different for each person, but being able to allow them to have that and let them flourish with what you've hired them for is so important.
And again, I said this a couple times in the show, no excuses, leaders. Take the time. Maybe you go talk to 3 employees a day. No excuses. Make it a priority. I know you got a lot of things going on, but make it a priority this year, or maybe between today and the end of 2025, depending on how many employees you have. I'm going to personally speak to every single employee one-on-one. Yeah. And if you got like 3,000 employees, maybe you do 3 a day and it takes you 2 years. But like I said, they're going to say, wow, this guy really cares, or this gal really cares about me. And then just you showing that you care, they're going to like, wow, all of a sudden they're going to sit up better. They're going to have a different posture and they're going to work a little harder because you took a few minutes to ask them, hey, what lights you up? What can we do to help you? They may say, you know what? I really want to take my Excel skills to the next level. And I really like to take this class, and it's like $100, and we got it. I got it covered. And think about what that's going to do to Sally. They're like, wow, this company really cares, and it's not costing you a lot of time or money. So a lot of the things I talk about, I like the concept I learned from W. Clement Stone. Small hinges swing big doors. So the leader going around to all their employees is going to make a massive difference.
Yes. And really, Mark, it's about being human.
Yes.
Right? We wouldn't sit down at a dinner table with friends that we hadn't seen in 2 months and not ask them how they are.
Yeah. That would be awkward.
Yes. Right? So it's just, don't forget your humanness. Your employees are human too. Right? And that personal touch.
Yeah, and it's the little things. I mean, when a guest sends me a gift, a card, copy of their book, without telling me, it's just nice. I had a pre-interview call with someone, and they sent me a $5 Starbucks card.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't ask for it, but it's the little things. It doesn't have to even be something that you spend money on. I mean, it's just, we're all human. In the age of AI, in the age of computers, we're still red-blooded humans. I don't care what color your melanin is. We all bleed red, and we're all humans. And I can tell you that when people do nice things for me, it makes me feel really good. I mean, just today, our neighbor, they're not doing as well as we are. And their car broke down. And they have 2 girls that go to a school and don't take the school bus. They have to drop their kids off at school. And I found out, they said, well, yeah, we walked our kids to school this morning. Like, that's like 5 miles away. And they go, until we get our car fixed, can you give us a ride to and from the school in the morning, in the afternoon? I'm like, yeah. I mean, why not? We both work from home. It's the right thing to do. They're like, thank you. I was like, no, it's the right thing to do. And I didn't say, oh, it's no big deal because that's insulting them. I'm like, look, it's our pleasure. And it's little things like that. Whether it's helping your employee, someone's got a loss of a family and it's a second cousin and your leave doesn't cover it. Let them go and pay them for it. I mean, or if they want to take an extra day out because their son they haven't seen in 5 years is home from the Army, give them the extra time with pay. It's little things, whether it's for an employee or your neighbor, it means the world and it doesn't cost a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the same way we want others to treat us. Right?
The golden rule in the Bible says, treat others as you would like to be treated. So our neighbor, if I needed help with my car died, how would I? So, is this, like you said it very well, Donna, just be human. We're all humans and we're all going to make mistakes, but we're all in this together.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Yes.
So I got another question for you here, and I did get this from, we use the service called Podmatch, and so I got to know, this question really piqued my curiosity. What's one unconventional, I love that word, unconventional. What's one unconventional technique you found effective in helping entrepreneurs make a shift? Because we can read the posts, the tweets, watch the YouTube videos, but basically it's always the same thing. It's like, do these 3 things to live a happy life. Do these 4 things to live a happy life. But you said the word unconventional. So I'm like, I got to ask her what this unconventional word is, or what this unconventional technique is.
So it's really about helping my clients do their mindset shift, because many of them come to me, they're solopreneurs or they have a small team. They're working not 24/7, but practically 24/7, way more than they want to be. They're feeling overwhelmed, but they want to grow this business. I remember one client said, I've created this monster and I don't know how to control it. Right?
Oh, yes.
No. And so they're in a spot where they want to grow the business, but they're already working so much. They don't feel they're being effective with their team. And many of them don't consider themselves the CEO. Or if they do, they think they're the chief everything officer. Right? Yes. So it's really starting with that mindset shift to say, yes, you need to start thinking and acting like the CEO of your business, whether you're making $100,000 a year or $3 million a year. And so what we like to start with is what I call a CEO Power Hour. And really, it's just 1 hour. It's non-negotiable on your calendar. It can be a Monday morning. It can be a Friday afternoon. It can be a Sunday afternoon. The day doesn't matter. What matters more is that it's this 1 hour, same time every week, and non-negotiable. So it only gets moved if there's some life crisis happening. And the reason we want that mark is because we're creatures of habit. And so we want to know every Monday, that's when I'm doing my CEO Power Hour. Okay, so what am I supposed to do during this power hour? Well, this is a time to do 3 things: review, reflect, and set your priorities. So we're reviewing a few of our metrics, reflecting how our week was and how our next week is going to be. If we need to shift some things because maybe we've got a trip out of town and, we've got too many things on our calendar, or something's double booked, or we just need some self-care this week and we need to, back off a little bit. And then what are our top 3 priorities going to be? And the reason for doing this each and every week is 1, it's a habit, but 2, it's allowing us to see where we are in our business. Because so many business owners say, oh yeah, these are my goals. I made them in January. If we're lucky, they're on a Post-it note and you read them once in a while. But
Yeah.
you know, we get to March, May, and we don't know where we are, right? Are we even close to meeting our goal? And so when we record that each and every week, we're keeping track of those things that are most important. And as we know, what we measure grows, right? So if a strategy for you right now is your lead generation, maybe I need to get more people knowing that I even exist, then let's start tracking that. How many people did we get in last week, this week, etc.? And then the same with your revenue. Because if I get 2 weeks into, the month and I'm looking at my revenue goal and I see where I want to be, well, now I have time to make an adjustment, right? Maybe I can do a quick flash sale, reach out to people, use Claude to help us with those prompts, right? But doing something to make a change. Whereas if I wait until after it's all done, right, it's too late. There's nothing we can do, right? And so keeping on top of that each and every week, and then setting those priorities and putting them in the calendar. Because if you're anything like me, if it's not in the calendar, it's probably not getting done. And so having those priorities in there so you know, right, Wednesday is my time to work on that thing. And those priorities are revenue generating. They're tied back to our goals, tied back to our why.
And I'll just give a little warning. Don't overcomplicate this. Don't procrastinate going out looking for a notebook. I use a paper planner, and my goal is every day, Monday through Friday, I send at least 100 DMs. So I just do little tick marks. I don't make it complicated. That's complexity is a gateway to procrastination. Just find some way to start tracking these things. And as you get more experience, you get better at it, then you can go buy other tools. But don't start there. And I love how you brought up about non-negotiable. So I've been running at least 1 mile every day since August 29, 2017. Well over 2,500 days. People go, how'd you do it? It's a non-negotiable. I read 60 minutes every day. How do you do that? It's a non-negotiable. So I walk 15,000 steps minimum every day. How do you do that? Guess what it is? Non-negotiable. Yes. So when you set non-negotiables in your life, and everything shouldn't be a non-negotiable, but you should have a core list of things that are non-negotiable. Have some for personal, some for business. But non-negotiable means it doesn't get moved. Yeah. I mean, my joke is I have a very specific morning routine. Takes me less than an hour. But I don't care if Oprah knocks at my door. Why would she be at my house at 4:30 in the morning? That'd be kind of bizarre. But I don't care because it's my front door. Unless your name is Jesus, I'm going to do because it's non-negotiable for me. It's non-negotiable. And I think people need to maybe write that down, non-negotiable. And maybe on a piece of paper, like, what are my non-negotiables? If you can't think of any, that's a problem because you need to have non-negotiables in your life. Guess what? To your body, your heartbeat's non-negotiable, your breathing's non-negotiable. So I think I want to give people homework on the podcast. Write down all your non-negotiables. And again, if you can't come up with any, you need to address that because like you said, the CEO Power Hour is non-negotiable. Then it becomes real. You put it on your calendar. You do it every week. But I think we need to have daily non-negotiables as well. Yeah,
totally agree. And, just want to point out to listeners that this is a journey, right? So I can come up with my non-negotiables today and probably before the end of the month, I'm going to fall off and not do one of them. That could be true. But that's not where I'm sitting, right? Every day I'm taking another step to get better, 1% better every day. And so if I, didn't do it yesterday, let's analyze why I didn't and set myself up for success tomorrow so I can do it, right? No beating ourselves up about the fact that we missed a day.
Yes, thank you. No trash talking yourself. Don't call yourself names. I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. No, you just had a bad day. I don't like when people talk trash to themselves, okay? It's not right. You love yourself, so don't talk to yourself that way. It's a good way to end the podcast. So before I ask you where people can find out more about you and all that stuff, is there any wisdom or nuggets of information that you want to leave us briefly before we end the show?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So one of the authors, I have many authors that I like to read their golden nuggets, but one of my favorite is James Clear. And he has a quote about time and focus. And I think it sort of wraps up what we've been talking about. And so to paraphrase, he says that many people think there isn't enough time. The truth of the matter is there is enough time, but we're not focusing on what matters most. And so I think as business leaders, we have to do that even more than we do in our personal lives. And so that's sort of, I like to keep that front and center. And, sometimes it takes that nudge to say, wait, what am I doing? That's not helping me. Let's get back on track. Yeah.
Love it. So where can we go to find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah. So my website is ceoamplify.ca. So you're welcome to pop over there. There is a downloadable PDF about the CEO Power Hour. So if that kind of intrigued your interest and you're like, yeah, I need some help, how do I set that up? Then you're welcome to download that, and it'll walk you through the steps of how to do that.
Okay. Donna, thank you so much for being on the show, folks. Head on over to her website, and after you go there, head on over to mine, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. I'll be back real soon with a brand new episode. Until then, stay productive and stay positive.